Welcome to Pesto Comics audio and video edition. This is the entry for September 13th, 2025. Rolling with the punches. It's much too early to play the hits. Welcome back. There's no getting around it. I'm a big dumb goof. I've been getting so caught up in trying to juggle everything with the recent campaigns and taking that small break to go to way too many concerts that I let a couple things slip. The first is something I've been bringing up for months. My spotlight at Wayside Comics and Cocktails. Something got lost in communication, likely on my end, and I didn't solidify my place on their calendar. They humbly offered for me to come by anyway, but I didn't want to impose. Instead, we're working out a date for late November. Clearly, I could use the time to get things sorted on my end anyway, especially with word on the street coming in just 2 weeks. And that is confirmed. I'll be at booth E1. The other sin I committed feels like a bigger one somehow. I did not realize that I was just going to recycle a relatively recent post for this one. I even repeated a lot of the headings, and for paid subscribers no less. I'm glad I caught the mistake. Much of that post remains relevant, so feel free to check it out. The only change is that I've switched from Inkscape to Affinity Designer. It's a huge step up in quality and worth every penny. I have no regrets there. Where I do have regrets is allowing my system for this newsletter to fail me. It's the first time something like this has happened in 112 posts. But it's not the first time I've changed the topic from when I initially proposed or previewed. It won't be the last pivot either. The newsletter is showing its age. In the first paid post, I explained the system I used to manage it all. In that post, I also preview a novella I was planning and since temporarily shelved while I work on Switch Restart and Backlot Babylon. It's one of many projects where I've had to rethink the release plans. Let's review the comics, novels, and other projects that I just haven't been able to get off the ground, but I just don't have the heart to say goodbye to yet. With a nearly full 2026 dance card and 2027 already having some entries, let's look at what had to give. If you'd like to continue on this journey, consider becoming a paid subscriber. Not only will you get this post, but all paid posts immediately after subscribing. If not, I'll be back with more on Wednesday as we say farewell to summer.